Hey guys, welcome to Braddels Gaming and to another episode of my Far Cry 5 custom map series. In this series I like to show you guys my maps in two parts. The first part is where I break down the map from a design and construction point of view, and I'll put the link to part 1 in the video description below. But part 2, which you guys are going to be seeing today, is gameplay of the map in action, some pros and cons of this particular map, and also some tips and tricks that you guys can employ when playing this map if you want yourself to do well, but if you want your team to also do well and win the game. So first of all, I'll start with the pros. And right off the bat, I can't really fault too many things about this map. Even though this map came out a year ago, or nearly a year ago, and it's taken me nearly a year to make a video for the map, it's actually presented me with a really good opportunity to gather a lot of feedback from many different people. And over the past 11 months since the map has been released, I've received a number of endorsements from both friends and randoms that have loved how I've brought this map together. Just a few weeks ago, I was playing my map with a group of people I consistently play Far Cry 5 with, and we hadn't played this map in ages. Much to my delight, when the lobby host put this map on, everyone was super ecstatic and nostalgic about playing this map again. Some people just love the absolute simplicity of the design. It's a fairly symmetrical map with only some slight variations in terrain from one side of the map to the other, but they're not really game changing per se. And so people love how this map is symmetrical, how it's simple, and how it really does remind them of Far Cry New Dawn. And that was my goal when creating this map, that I was trying to conceive a map that was exactly like Far Cry New Dawn. This initially wasn't very easy. As I mentioned in part 1 of this Twins episode, I built this entire map before the release of Far Cry New Dawn, and the only resource that I really had to go off when creating this map was the Far Cry New Dawn reveal trailer, which was about 3 to 5 minutes in length. But I was super over the moon when that game did come out, because it proved that my map creation was bang on the money in terms of its atmosphere, environment, and overall design. Some particular pros that I can pull out from the video: I absolutely love the environment that I've created, the vegetation. I think it's bang on for your money in terms of the level of terrain that there is. Super bloom doesn't necessarily mean it's this lush jungle that appears before you. It's still pretty scarce. There's still remnants of the nuclear blast. As you guys can see, it's pretty barren in terms of its in terms of the dirt and the grass. It's still sort of growing back. But in that same process, there's still a fair amount of flowers blooming. You know, you got your yellow flowers, you got your pink flowers, and one of the things I'm really happy about is the cyber filter that I put over the map, which is at a 0.4 opacity. It adds this pink overlay to any of the objects in the Far Cry 5 arcade that is red, so they become pink, which is naturally the main color palette, the main theme of Far Cry New Dawn. So the red fireweed, the red containers, everything that you see on the screen that you would think would be red is actually pink, thanks to the cyber filter. I was also pretty happy with how the bases came out. I think they're simple enough to be able to be believable, they're realistic enough, but they're not too big in that the whole conflict will stagger around the outposts themselves. They're a nice point of interest, a nice place for people to be able to spawn, and there's enough cover that when the battle shifts into one of these bases, because maybe one team is attacking and one team is defending, there is still enough structure within the bases for the map gameplay to hold up. As you guys can see me doing right here, it's getting super chaotic, super fast paced, because most of the conflict is currently within this particular base. But on that note, the bases themselves aren't meant to necessarily be the best points of defense, the best areas of defense, because I've added lots of exits within them that act as a lot of different entry points. But we'll get onto that tip very, very soon. Another pro is just the general environment. I love the river, I love the waterfall coming down and the bridges and the flanking routes. It just becomes this comprehensive map how there is essentially 3 lanes. There's these 2 bridges on either side of the map, and then there's also the central bridge, which acts as the main sort of pinhead for players to sort of move through. Moving on to the second gameplay now, and as you guys can see from the scoreboard, it's 60 to 34 in the first game, and that will move me on to the tips and tricks very, very soon. But another pro of this map that a lot of people seemed to like is just the general gameplay as well. So you've got these mounted vehicles, you've got so many different classes to pick from. There's 4 to be exact. There's 2 classes which have guns in them. Well, actually there's 3 classes that have guns in them, I believe. Oh wait, no, what am I saying? All classes have guns in them, but there's varying levels of things that you can do with each class. So there's a spray and pray class which has the AK-47 and the Vector. There's the guns blazing class which has the M60. So I'm trying to recall these things at the top of my head. I should have wrote them down. But anyways, there's also a Joseph's Fire class, which is basically the flamethrowers. Although I must say the flamethrowers don't really do much in this game, apart from the campaign or the single player arcade. They don't really do too much to players on a multiplayer level. And then there's Barium, which is basically just the shovel launcher. And then you've got all these mounted vehicles, and yeah, so many different levels of engagement. There's long distance, short range, medium range engagements. So I think that people just love the variety that this map presents, the simplicity of its design, and the overall aesthetic in terms of how similar it does look to Far Cry New Dawn. In terms of cons, I'd say maybe work on the outer terrain, the outer parts of the map, such as the mountain range that surrounds the map. It is a little bit low to the ground. I could probably increase that a little bit more. And there's no invisible barriers on this map, so players can technically walk straight out of the map. I've tried to conceal the outer part of the map with a forest to try and make this map feel part of a larger world, and so that means that the immersion isn't broken. However, players are still more than welcome to go out of the map if they so please, although I feel like there's enough action within the map to contain players and encourage them to stay within the map boundaries, even if there are no invisible walls. There is a map boundary, which means that if you extend past that map boundary for more than 8 seconds, I think it is, Ubisoft, the game will naturally just kill you, which is kind of good, I guess. Means that the action is going to stay where I intended it to be. And another con is maybe the vehicle gameplay can be a little bit staggered, although I purely initially added the vehicles as an aesthetic point of view. When I was watching the Far Cry New Dawn reveal trailer, I saw the vehicles and they were pink and had these cool designs on them. And much to my delight, I found these vehicles in Far Cry 5 that look a lot like the vehicles in Far Cry New Dawn in terms of their design and their color palette, in terms of how they're painted, in terms of their quirky camouflage design and their pinkish sort of, color palette. And so I added these vehicles, initially I added these vehicles as an aesthetic, try and bring some of that Far Cry New Dawn realism over to Far Cry 5, over to this particular map. But they also provide some really cool gameplay, as you guys will see here with my friend OzGhost and me tearing these people up. He's the driver, I'm the shooter. It definitely feels a little bit like my Battlefield days, where I would drive a tank and I would use the HMG heavy machine gun on the M1 Abrams to destroy some people. And so even though vehicle gameplay isn't really great on Far Cry to begin with due to the lack of vehicle respawning, it's still something that is very prevalent on this map. So this can be both a pro and con on my map. When all the vehicles get destroyed, it kind of becomes absent, although that's not really something that us map editors can really control. That's more an issue of Ubisoft. And then also the roads themselves, there's not really many roads for the vehicles to actually traverse on. Although that was intentional because I wasn't really trying to make this map a vehicle map per se. I was more so just trying to make it a map that was mostly infantry focused, with some vehicles in the foreground to sort of help that variety element and that aesthetical point of view that I've been talking about. Now, with the final few minutes of the video, I'll be talking about some tips and tricks you guys can employ, and I already hinted at one earlier, which was the use of the vehicles. The amount of machine guns on the vehicles are quite devastating, and so if you can control the vehicles, you pretty much control the game, because the vehicles have such great stopping power with the amount of guns that they possess. The amount of guns basically kill people in 1 second, and because this map is generally quite open, there are still the cars in the middle that sort of provide a little bit of cover, but the map itself is generally an open map, especially in this sort of a zone that I'm heading to now. It's definitely something you want to use if you want to win this map. The amount of guns on the bases themselves are more of an aesthetic point of view as well. They're not really great to use because they don't have too much of an angle to shoot out of. So don't fall for that particular gimmick that I placed on the map. And some other tips that I guess I can give you guys is to play with an attacking mindset. And this is probably the most important tip I can give you. Every game that I've played, the attacking team has always won the game. And I know that's pretty cliche to say, but I designed the bases so that they could be easily infiltrated. There's the two main entrances, exits at the back and the front of the base, but then there's also these little gaps in the walls of the base that you can infiltrate. You can basically climb on everything, so if you are able to infiltrate the enemy base, it's going to be pretty easy for you guys to overwhelm them. And so that's what I was trying to do with this map. I was trying to encourage the player behavior that the base was just a little reprieve before you went back into battle, and that you were trying to infiltrate each other's bases. And once you do infiltrate each other's bases, as you guys probably have seen in the gameplay of this video, the other team becomes easily overwhelmed. And while spawn killing can be an issue, this is actually something that I don't mind in this particular map build, because I want to encourage player behavior to play with that attacking mindset. Anyways, thank you guys very much for watching the video. Please remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed. But anyways, this is Braddels Gaming signing out, and remember to have yourselves a great day.